Heath.
And we are Chelsea-Michelle, and we are talking about Hours We Regret, which is our free prequel novella that you can get with, we'll have a link in the description below. Now, we are talking spoilers today, so if you have not read it, read it first, and then come back and watch this, unless you are one of those weird people who like spoilers. No judgment, but I'm not one of those.
No, I am not either. Okay, so we're talking spoiler, well, we'll include spoilers, but we're going to talk today about who wrote which scenes. Yeah. So if you notice, obviously you should have read the book already, but the characters alternate chapters, and primarily that's how we wrote.
I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Michelle.
And that's primarily what we write, but not 100%.
Right.
Very much collaborative work.
Yeah. So before we tell you what we wrote or what we didn't write, you have an opportunity to guess. Like, again, primarily I wrote all of Michelle, she wrote all of Chelsea, but there were some exceptions woven through. Do you have any idea where those exceptions might have been?
And if you can't tell, then that means we did our job really well.
I think we did our job really well.
We tried to make it seamless, and we had readers. That was our goal.
Yeah.
And we kind of did, we kind of edited a little bit of things as we went to kind of give it all the same voice. But there were, chunks of scenes, chunks of her scenes that I wrote and chunks of my scenes that she wrote.
Right. And I think part of it, too, is that when we edit, she would definitely come back and she would edit Chelsea's lines sometimes, And so what I may have written in the scene stayed as far as, the concept, the direction of the conversation, but how it was worded.
Right.
And then there's sometimes we just completely write it together.
Yeah. I think my favorite is whenever we're messaging on Facebook Messenger and we're just brainstorming. All of a sudden we start spewing out twin lines.
Yes, dialogue, and literally just back and forth.
Yeah.
And that is a load of fun. And so you definitely get a real natural, I think that's part of what makes it feel so natural, is, she'll text me, she's like, okay, this is kind of what I've set up. What would Michelle say? And I'm, she's stuck. She doesn't know what Michelle would say. And I'm like, she would definitely say, no brainer. This is her response. So that's really cool. But what were some of the scenes that we did not originally write?
So my scene that I wrote for her was, I should have looked at chapters. I don't remember the chapter. Whenever Michelle is in the wreck. It was a really short chapter. She wrote it and she's like, okay, she had a wreck. And I'm like, oh, no. You need to ramp up the tension there. You totally, and I'm better with suspense. And
I'm not good with physical tension, the activity, the action.
She's good with romantic tension.
Yeah, or emotional.
Yeah.
I love that. And everybody wants to talk about chapter 3 and the breakup. That's my jam,
Yeah. But Michelle getting in the wreck was not. And so I went through it. I pretty much wrote a large portion of that chapter, just getting Michelle looking in the rear mirror and just getting closer and closer and closer.
And it's really interesting because what I did when you wrote that initially, because my version was skimpy. It was okay, she saw some lights and
she's spun out.
This is all I've got. I don't have anything, and I really didn't. It didn't work for me. Anyway, so she goes through and she adds in kind of more point by point, moment by moment, what's happening, the activity. And but what I went back through and wove back in was the emotional response to all of that, because that's definitely that's apparently going to be the quote, Michelle's the moody one. There's a reason for that, but I went back and added in the emotion, what is she feeling when she sees lights? What is she feeling as she turns the corner? And just kind of slowing that part down to include those things. But so because I'm the emotional one, the part that I love to write the most is some of the dialogue, just the back and forth.
Oh yes. She'll send me chunks of dialogue. Here you go.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is for your chapter. Sorry.
Yeah.
But one of the scenes in particular was, I believe it's chapter 14, where it's after Michelle's come back home and they're talking about why Michelle broke up with Kyle. Why? And so that was obviously a question. I didn't really have an answer for the why. I just knew that this was what happens. And so for me, I had to ask that question. Why did she break up with this guy?
I'm still asking that question.
She still doesn't get it. I don't know how many more ways I can tell her. But no, I did have to sit down and ask that why. And so that scene actually came out of me exploring that. And so that wasn't Amanda writing for Michelle. That was Michelle writing for herself, trying to discover the, you know. And if you go back and actually read through that chapter, you can see that she's like, I don't know why. I just know that I had to.
Right.
You know, like it's just very much she's in the middle of this feeling, you know, and something's just not quite right. She can't put her finger on it. And I think as a writer, I had to just be honest with that. Like, I know this is right for the character. Neither of us know why. Me and Michelle don't know why. We just know that it is. And, you know, you just kind of pour that into there. And but, you know, it fell into Chelsea's chapter.
Yeah, it did.
And Amanda never would have written.
No. And I think it worked out really well because then I could go off of that.
Yes.
Off of those answers.
Yes.
And she had some Chelsea dialogue in there. And I'm like, well, but that's not quite exactly what Chelsea would have said or her thought process. But I could still use her dialogue because that was very important stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's really helpful because I don't have to think in two sides of my brain.
Right.
You know, I was filling in for Chelsea. Like, Chelsea's getting this response. How would she feel? Chelsea's getting this response. How would she feel?
Right. And so you get a lot of that Chelsea inner dialogue for herself, which Amanda would totally know because I wouldn't know what she's thinking in light of what Michelle just shared. Yeah.
So sometimes we give each other like a skeleton of like, here's this, and then the other person fills it in with that character's emotions and feelings.
Yeah. So it's very much a collaboration, and it's fun because we kind of have our assigned chapters, but then there are areas where, you know, or we've even had in the new book, I was like, hey, I hadn't really seen this. If you know what's happening here, go for it.
Right.
Sketch that out, and then I'll add to it, or vice versa. So.
Yeah.
It's been
so
fun.
it works. You know, we weren't planning on doing this. Like, we were literally planning on, you write this chapter, I'll write this chapter. But then as we get into it, it's like, your character has a lot in this chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know what your character's thinking. Fill it in for us. So so I imagine we're going to do a lot of that as we go. And just like filling in the blanks. And like, this is, you know, adding this. Or just like playing on our strengths. And I think that's what's beautiful about this collaboration is, you know, we have different strengths. Mine is more like, you know, describing physical tension, I guess.
Yeah.
So just working together for that.
Yeah. She's got the suspense and the action, and I've got the emotion, and together we have a cozy mystery.
Yeah. That hopefully y'all will love, or have already loved. Hopefully, if you've watched this, you've already read it. If not, you know a bunch of the spoilers.
Yeah. But yeah, we look forward to sharing the next story with you, and so we'll talk to y'all later.
Hey.